involves the kidnapping of a 10-year-old girl.
That body has been positively identified as that of Amy Mihaljevic.
It is one of the biggest murder mysteries in local history.
It's October 27th, 1989, a crisp Friday afternoon in Bay Village, Ohio, one of those picture-perfect suburban communities where nothing bad ever happens. Kids ride their bikes without helmets, neighbors leave their doors unlocked, and the biggest worry most parents have is whether their child remembered their lunch money. But on this particular Friday, everything was about to change forever. 10-year-old Amy Mihaljevic should have been walking home from Bay Village Middle School, just like she did every other day. She should have been home by 3:30, but Amy never made it home. She was just a regular kid living in Bay Village, Ohio. By all accounts, she was a happy, normal girl who loved horses and had dreams of becoming a veterinarian someday. Amy lived with her mom, Margaret, who worked as a secretary at a local company called TRW. Her parents had divorced when she was younger, but she had a good relationship with both of them. She was the kind of kid who followed the rules, listened to her parents, and didn't get into trouble. Bay Village was the type of place where people felt safe letting their kids walk around the neighborhood. It's a small suburb about 20 minutes west of Cleveland, and back in 1989, it felt like the kind of community where nothing bad ever happened. Parents didn't worry too much about their kids going to the local shopping plaza or riding their bikes around town. Amy went to Bay Middle School and was just starting 5th grade that fall. She was smart, got good grades, and had a close group of friends. Her mom, Margaret, later said Amy was responsible for her age, the kind of kid you could trust to walk to the store or stay home alone for a little while. This trust, this sense of safety that everyone felt in Bay Village, is exactly what made what happened next so shocking. October 27th, 1989 started like any other Friday for Amy. She went to school, came home, and was doing her usual after-school routine. Her mom, Margaret, was still at work at TRW, which was pretty normal. Around 3:30 that afternoon, Amy got a phone call at home. The person on the other end knew things about Amy and her family that they shouldn't have known. They knew her mom's name was Margaret. They knew where Margaret worked. They even knew what Margaret looked like. The caller told Amy that her mom had just gotten a promotion at work and that Margaret wanted Amy to meet this person at the Bay Square Shopping Center to pick out a present for her mom to celebrate. The caller said Margaret had asked them to take Amy shopping because she couldn't leave work early. Think about this for a second. You're 10 years old and an adult is telling you something that sounds believable. Your mom does work at that company, and getting a promotion would be exciting news. To a kid, this story probably made perfect sense. So Amy did what most kids would do. She believed the adult. She told her friend she had to go meet someone to buy her mom a present. Around 4 p.m., she walked the half-mile from her house to the Bay Square Shopping Center. Multiple people saw Amy at the shopping center that afternoon. She was spotted near the shopping plaza, walking around, apparently looking for whoever she was supposed to meet. Some witnesses later said they saw her talking to someone, but the descriptions were vague and didn't match up perfectly. And then Amy Mihaljevic just vanished. When Margaret got home from work that evening and Amy wasn't there, she wasn't immediately panicked. Amy was a responsible kid, and Margaret figured she was probably at a friend's house. But as the hours passed and Amy didn't come home, Margaret started making phone calls. By late that night, when they still couldn't find Amy anywhere, Margaret called the police. The Bay Village Police Department started working the case immediately, but they quickly realized this wasn't something they could handle alone. Within days, the FBI was brought in, and this became one of their priority cases. Right from the start, investigators knew they were dealing with something unusual. Whoever took Amy had planned this out. They had been watching her family, learning their routines, gathering information. The FBI set up a command center and started interviewing everyone they could find. They talked to Amy's classmates, her teachers, neighbors, family friends, anyone who might have seen something or known something that could help. They also started looking into that phone call Amy received. This was 1989, so they didn't have the same technology we have today for tracing calls, but they tried to figure out where it came from. The problem was, the call could have come from almost anywhere, and there was no way to trace it back. The investigators also discovered something that made this case even more disturbing. Amy wasn't the only kid who had gotten a phone call like this. Several other girls in the area, around Amy's age, had received similar calls in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. The caller used the same story, telling them their mom got a promotion and wanted them to go shopping for a present. The difference was, these other girls either didn't believe the caller or their parents happened to be home when the call came in. Amy was alone when she got her call, and she trusted what the adult told her. This told investigators they were dealing with someone who was methodical, someone who had been planning this for a while and was probably watching multiple potential victims. For months, hundreds of volunteers searched for Amy. They combed through woods, fields, abandoned buildings, anywhere a child might be hidden. The FBI brought in search dogs, helicopters, and every resource they could think of. Amy's case got national attention. Her picture was on missing person flyers everywhere. The story was covered on shows like America's Most Wanted. The whole community was looking for this little girl, hoping against hope that she was still alive somewhere. But on February 8, 1990, more than 3 months after Amy disappeared, a jogger found her body in a remote field in Ashland County, about an hour south of Bay Village. The location where Amy was found told investigators a lot. It was way out in the middle of nowhere, down a dirt road that most people wouldn't even know existed. Whoever put her there knew the area well, or had scouted it out ahead of time. The medical examiner determined that Amy had been killed shortly after she disappeared, probably within the first few days. The cause of death was determined to be stab wounds to the neck. Over the years, the FBI followed up on thousands of tips and investigated numerous suspects. Some of the leads seemed promising at first, but none of them panned out. One of the biggest clues was those phone calls we talked about earlier. The FBI believed that whoever made the calls was local, someone who knew the area well and had been watching these families. They thought it was probably someone who worked in a job where they could observe people's routines. Maybe a delivery person, repair worker, or someone who had access to homes and businesses. They also looked closely at the clothes Amy was found wearing. That homemade curtain shirt was unusual, and investigators hoped someone would recognize it. They showed pictures of it to fabric stores, seamstresses, anyone who might have seen something like it before, but no one ever came forward with information that led anywhere. The FBI also focused on the location where Amy's body was found. The killer clearly knew that area well. It wasn't the kind of place you'd stumble across by accident. They interviewed people who lived nearby, worked in the area, or might have reason to know about that remote field. So why couldn't the FBI solve this case for so long? A few big reasons. First, it was 1989. The tools we use to solve crimes today didn't exist back then. DNA testing was just starting out. No cell phone data, no internet history, no social media to trace. Second, the person who did this was smart. They planned it well, left little to no evidence, and chose a victim and spot that made things tough for investigators. One man caught the FBI's attention early on. Dean Runkle, a former teacher and eccentric figure in the area. He matched the physical description. He knew the area. He had a strange fascination with young girls, but they could never tie him to the crime. Other suspects came and went. No one was charged. The case went cold, but it was never forgotten. In 2016, the FBI formed a new task force to re-examine the evidence. They used updated DNA testing, genealogy analysis, digital forensic techniques. In 2021, they revealed they had developed new DNA leads, including male DNA from Amy's clothing. But they've never announced a match. They believe they are close, but close isn't justice. Amy's story is a reminder of why we need to teach kids about staying safe, about not trusting strangers who claim to know their family, and about the importance of checking with parents before going anywhere with someone they don't know well. What do you think about Amy's case? Have you heard of other cases that took decades to solve? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video informative, please consider subscribing. We cover cases like this regularly, always with respect for the victims and their families.